the Facebook group. Okay, cool.
Solid
Great.
troubleshooting.
Okay. So grateful to have you here. So my name is Aoife. I am a transformational health coach for highly sensitive women. I teach highly sensitive women how to heal themselves from anxiety, depression, chronic pain, all kinds of illness through mind-body techniques. And joining me today is the amazing Jenny. And Jenny has her own story of recovery from chronic fatigue syndrome and has worked for years as a coach and has so much experience in coaching and psychology, and has been teaching women also how to recover from these types of syndromes. So we're so lucky to have you here today, and we're gonna get so much wisdom from you, and tools and techniques and all kinds of gems. So just thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, the honor is mine, Aoife. Thank you so much for inviting me to hang with you.
Amazing. So yeah, we're just gonna riff today. Basically, we were chatting a bit about what was I was calling it the learning journey.
Yes, the learning journey. Yeah, I think it started from the core, we all have this self-concept, right? And this identity that we latch onto when we're going through these journeys. And so the word that was helping me was, I just need to be a learner. And you were like, yes, the learning journey. And we both realized we were bringing ourselves and our clients to that foundational identity of like, we're just learners. Like, we are really just here to learn how to be better carers for our well-being, period.
I love this so much, because also when you're like hard and fast trying to like heal and get better, and I have so many clients that are like just like me, we're like, I should be in a better place than I am now. I should be somewhere else. Like, I shouldn't be having any like symptom or reaction or anything right now. And it really is like it's like being hard on yourself, literally, and being in that more hard and rigid place, which is a stressful place, stressful for your nervous system, etc. And then we are always wanting to move towards more softening, more opening, and essentially like more compassion and love for ourselves. And I find rather than calling this whole journey a healing journey, like there's somewhere to get to where you're healed, I find it really helpful to call it the learning journey.
I love it so much. Yeah, you nailed it. Those high achievers, the perfectionists, the self-critical type, right? I mean, I think we learn how to do that. I doubt any of us are born to criticize the crap out of ourselves, but we end up doing it. If you're human, you just end up doing it. And, when you're trying to get somewhere and you're accomplishing and you're doing, and your whole identity is built on that, I think you learn pretty quickly the hard way, right? In these journeys, that there's not this thing that you can control. You can't just make the pain go away or make the fatigue go away. And at first, for me, that was like aggravating. And there was so much despair and so much hopelessness, because that was my only way of being, was like, get it done, accomplish it. And if I didn't figure out how to, that was a weakness on my part, versus this idea of like, I'm just learning something new. This is a new challenge for me. This is new territory. My old hammer isn't working. This must not be a nail. Like, I need more tools in the toolbox. And when you embrace that learner mindset, I think it just softens the whole body mind system to be receptive, right, to other ways of doing things. Not an overnight process, right?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because like, I find that I grew up in a world where that was really hard and fast, and was more like fear-based, it was just more hard in lots of ways, and rigid. And so I felt like, and I still feel like, on this learning journey, that we are like embarking on new territory almost, that to choose to learn and to soften and open up. And yeah, so I would love to like tell you a little story basically where I just moved to
Yeah.
Spain.
Yeah.
I was sharing with you a bit, and it was really short notice, and I moved to booked my flights, and I was like also launched a workshop and had to like write the workshop, and there was lots going on. And I then arrived in my new place, and so yeah, like my energy was all over the place, right? And up and down, and excited and scared, and like stressed, and all kinds of different stresses going on, like positive, like positive, negative, in between, all kinds of things. Then arriving in a new place, like not really sleeping, right? Then like wanting to write this workshop and serve everyone, and all these kinds of things going on. And it was so beautiful to see that when things like not sleeping and then feeling tired, that I was not seeing them as such a massive problem. I wasn't so scared of them anymore. And that really, for me, is like just sums it up. Like I'm just always learning how to respond to myself.
Yes. And your body's way of responding to change and unfamiliarity. And I think so many of us feel like we shouldn't be affected by things, that when we're affected, whether that's fatigue or just a little fear pops up because we're moving to a new place, like we feel like we should be so unaffected. And when we are, the first instinct is to be like, I'm not handling this, or I'm not managing it well, or I'm sensitive, or whatever word, right? Somebody uses, and it's like, no, this is just when I need some sleep, my body shows me through feelings of tired. When I'm in a new landscape, when I take a new job or move to a different country, I'm going to be affected by the unfamiliarity. And the moment we break familiarity, our brain goes, oh, wait a minute, this is new. That could be a new thought. That could be a new apartment, anything, right? And we are triggered by something. So to just see that feedback and effect that our bodies are experiencing with more understanding, patience, compassion. I mean, there's a lot of responses we can come up with, but judgment's usually the first one for many, right? So yeah, I love that you're having this experience now through new eyes and through new skills. It's a cool comparison to see how far you've come, right?
Such a like I keep comparing it to when I moved to Bali 2 years ago, and I knew, all about the mind body. I'd healed myself from so many things, but it doesn't mean, and I love what you're sharing, because you did a brilliant Instagram post a few weeks ago that said something like, the only people who are not affected by life are dead people. Or
are
what was
dead
it?
people.
Yeah, did I say it right?
You probably summarized it right. I have no idea, but that sounds familiar. Yeah, right. Like the only people that are unaffected by life would be dead people. Sums up real quickly, right?
Totally.
So when I was recovering, I started working 20 hours a week after I started with 8 hours, then like 10, 15, then I bumped up to 20, all as my way of stepstoning myself back into the workplace after being on an unpaid leave of absence. Then that turned into 28 and then 30. And as you know, last week I started full-time at the place that I've been at for 5 years. And each and every time I've done that, I have this little cycle of, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? Can my body handle it? And then I have to remember, it's okay. Like you're adjusting to more hours, you're taking on some different projects that is going to affect you. And it's right that it affects you. Now, what do I want to do with that information, right? Do I need to remind myself, that I can take breaks throughout my workday, or I have paid time off to use. If I feel tired, I can take the day off or a sick day, So I had to remind myself of my resources, not just resources in my organization, but people in my organization, people in my family, in my life that were here, that were there for me as I sort of, acclimated to the next layer of life that I've added back in. And I used to think, oh no, like I'm going to react to it, and that means I'm not ready. It has nothing to do with my readiness, right? It has everything to do with, can I be with these sensations, how my body's being affected, with curiosity, interest, compassion, kindness. Can I do that? The more we do that, and you can move to Spain, you can take a job, you can do the things you want to do in your life, because now you know how to approach and be with yourself when you're affected, because we'll all be affected. Yeah.
That's totally it. And that's what the resilience is. Whereas I always imagined that like the resilience and the destination and the healed is being unaffected, essentially being dead.
Yes.
Like,
and you can only take on or do those cool things that you want to do in your life after you've healed, right? So people keep postponing their lives, maybe saying no to full-time work, maybe saying no to moving to Spain and thinking it's a dream. We postpone our lives when we don't have that skill set, as you're mentioning here. Yeah. Oof. And then we start to feel real shut down, right? Like that's a recipe for suffering right there.
It really is. Yeah, because I just remember how little joy I had when I was so sick, and I just didn't have these resources. I really didn't know essentially how to take care of myself. On a very basic level, I might have been able to, on a conventional level, but on a very basic level, I wasn't able to take breaks. I was sharing actually with someone about a year ago because she had the same thing, how I would not go to the toilet. I would hold in going to the toilet for a long time because I kind of wouldn't want to disrupt like a situation, so if I was in a social situation, I would be like holding in my pee like for ages and ages, and like I wouldn't want to like leave the group or just disrupt, like it's like your basic need.
Yes.
Not looking after one of my most very basic needs, because I was so caught up in people pleasing and just feeling anxious, and I don't know, just like not really knowing what to do with myself a lot of the time.
Yeah, just the most basic human responses, having to go to the bathroom, right? And having to learn how to approach those. I read I think it was just an Instagram, post yesterday that said, and it was in the comments, I wish it had been the whole thing, because it said eating is self-care. And I thought, oh gosh, in a world where we're taught to like eat by the prescription, right? And make sure you get it all right. I was like, oh, it's those, like, you can feel that in your body when you say eating is self-care. Don't you just immediately feel yourself soften? Those are the breadcrumbs that I hope every client starts to pick up on, is like when you hear the truth of any situation, eating, sleeping, moving, whatever, and you hear something, it softens you. Eating is self-care. Oh, what a relief, right? That is your truth. Follow that. Like moving, what have you, follow those little breadcrumbs of relief. It's from someone like myself. I'll just speak to my own recovery with perfectionistic, high expectations, overdriven, overachieving. I've recovered from over drinking, overeating, over exercising. Like all of that was just the beginning before chronic fatigue. So all of that was being unwound right as that happened. And you start to learn all these ways you're showing up in the world with the same energy of fight, flight, or freeze. Is like, wait, you mean there is an easier way? Like eating can just be self-care, not a science to reduce my body fat or perfect myself in some way. Right? I could give a million examples like that. And I know everyone here has those ahas of having an easier time living this life.
Absolutely. And when it comes to food, like that was one of my, because IBS and I was allergic to everything. And this, like, since I was a really young child, I was directed by, like all kinds of like medical or unconventional healing modalities to look towards food, because it was my stomach that was having so many problems, and what goes in your stomach, food. So I really did have a lifetime of that whole world. And then of course the weight loss whole perfecting thing is just so out there, and it's so in our faces. But I was talking to a woman the other day who shared that she would walk into a supermarket and she would have a panic attack because she just didn't know what to eat, what was dangerous. And the messages that we get about food can be so confusing. And then of course, when you get into trying to heal yourself, you're already so stressed, you're already in so much pain and tired, and financial problems, work problems, all kinds of things going on. And then you throw in the story about like gluten being dangerous and sugar being dangerous, and then you're just like, it's too much to handle, isn't it?
It is. And we just either paralyze or tune out or shut down. It's really making me see how when we get into that danger, right, simple things become life or death. We suddenly can't make choices about anything, right? Because we're in life or death or threat defense. We're living from that energy, not realizing there isn't a bear right here. I actually am not about to die. But man, we feel like it when we're in the beginning stages of our healing and we're living from that space. It can be really hard to understand that that is our nervous system state and not the truth about the situation. And then everything feels scary and overwhelming. So we have no choice but to shut down, tune out, tip into despair, or just hide out, which is sad. And that's where my heart really, I think, feels the deepest empathy about this work and the journeys people are on, is how isolating and painful it can get when that's the last resort your body has, is to come down into that shutdown place. It's like, that's everything. Your connection to the world around you has now been taken to. Like, I know that moment. I remember thinking in that moment, what's the point? Like, why am I even here anymore? Just run me over now, Ugh.
Yeah, that's the way you put that was so powerful, because it brought me right back as well. And I remember like I used to have all my special food that I would try and take everywhere with me, and there was a moment where my dad was driving me somewhere in a car, and he was telling me about his work night out that he had. And like, my dad is in his late 60s, and he's like, we went to a restaurant in Dublin, we ate blah, blah, blah. And then we went for a drink at this bar, and they were playing like this music that he loved. It was like, whatever. I was listening to him talk, this man, like nearly 70. And I was like, I can't remember the last time I went out for dinner and had that sort of like freedom, like, oh, we'll just, head over here. Oh, like, why not over here? What's next? I was like, I can't, honestly, I think that was one of the moments where my brain did a flip and was like, I want this. I'm getting goosebumps now. I was like, I no longer want the control and the perfection or the whatever I'm striving for. I just remember hearing him speak. He loves music. It sounded so free.
Right.
I was like, I am in a fucking prison here. Like, and I think that's when my brain flipped, and I started to probably look for different information rather than more food science or more. I was like searching and maybe in different ways, but certainly something flipped for me then. And I always hear these clients who I get on the phone to, and this is what they say they want, is freedom. They feel so stuck. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more on a more resonant word for anyone on this journey: freedom. or I want my life back. And what they mean is to do the things that they love doing, to engage in the things that are freeing and fun and light for them. I love that you noticed there was something that created a prison. You didn't have to know all the answers to that yet. You just noticed that there might be another way, that there might be something different, that your dad was doing something and it was an essence that you wanted for your life. And then just that subtle, I mean, that was a 1%, right? And I think we can dive into wanting answers and conclusions, but the journey really is like what you've shared here, this degree of change where suddenly now you're just finding different resources and you're being exposed to different people and thoughts and ways of doing this work, right? And that, of course, brings different evidence and different experiences to your body mind system. And we learn that actually I can even follow through on some of those things. I can even make an impact here on my well-being or whatever the lesson is. But that little tiny shift is probably one of the most important things, right? Because without that, blinders on, stuck in the box, I can't do this. Good for you. You have that. That's not available to me, right? But this recognition, wait, that's possible. Wait a minute, what? Right? And we just have those deer in a headlight moments, right? Of what do you mean? So this summer, I signed up and I was not ready to do this, right? We're never ready. And I always say that to clients. I signed up for this adult mom soccer league, right? All of our kids play soccer. And one of the moms who works at one of the universities here organized this mom league. And I was like, all right, if I want social connection with moms and get back to some athleticism, like I'm putting my name on the line, right? It was a very beginner focused group. And every session I showed up super nervous. I was afraid that I was going to collapse after the game, die in the game, have a heart attack in the game. None of the fears left me because it was so new and so much more intense than what I would normally exercise. If I take a jog by myself, whatever, nobody's watching me. I can stop whenever I want, right? But this was a whole new situation. And again, unfamiliarity, change, different is going to affect us. And so I just noticed myself like watching all of this unfold, like just watching every thought, watching every feeling, watching every fear and being like, okay, you just have to get to the field. Okay, you just have to get on the field. Okay, you just have to start warming up, right? And one little thing would lead to the next, and I'd be playing a game. And a couple of times we even went out after the game and had a beer, which I was never able to drink, during the grip of chronic fatigue. But it was like, when you have those experiences, you're like, holy shit, did I just run and drink a beer? Like, is this, and sometimes that can be scary. Sometimes I can still slip into this, like, will I be able to do that again? Is that even safe to do? So I think, normalize some of these fears that continue to follow us. We can't suppress those. This is trauma too, right? And fear and reactions and protective mechanisms are going to be there. But what do we want to do with those when they come along on that journey? Because they'll be in our back pocket and sometimes they'll be right here staring us in the face. They're like, you can't play soccer, you'll die. Thank you for your feedback, right? I'm going to play soccer today. But yeah, it's and then learning through those experiences. We made it, we did it. And I use those, and I'm sure you do this with your clients, to really collect that positive evidence, to really collect all the moments that you were okay and you did do it, and reminding yourself, you know how to take care of you. You've learned that. You can do that. Because there were some games where I thought, okay, that pushed me. I'm a little tired, and it was scary to be tired. And then I'd say to myself, you're not going to do any exercise tomorrow. You just take the day, you drink a lot of water, you know what to do, right? And then there's only one game a week. So I had plenty of time to regroup before the next game came up. And it was just such a fun challenge of like, what is available to me now, right? What can I continue to grow and invite back into my life, right? Because a lot got pushed out. So we do have to be really graceful, compassionate, I think, and kind as we invite things back in. We can't just shove it in because that's going to just implode our trauma, right? And and make our bodies and minds backlash against that. So it is about pacing. I wasn't going to do a soccer game like 5 years ago or even 2 years ago. It would have been too much, right? So kindness is a big deal when we're pacing these things that we invite back in.
Yes. Oh my God. I was just like listening
I'm
to
like,
you.
where did I go with that?
Am I supposed to talk as well? Just like keep talking. That was just, oh my God. I was just getting so many insights into everything there. And yeah, like that fear pops up for me as well. Like today I went swimming in the ocean here, and I had no idea the Mediterranean could be so cold. And one of my stories is that like cold makes me like all tired and like, you know, not myself or whatever. I want to be in the heat and in the sauna, and I never want to get cold. So it's just, I know now, it's just a story I've told my body my whole life and my brain. And so I do like cold exposure, little bits, not huge. If I just put myself in an ice bath for 20 minutes, like I won't feel good.
Definitely.
Or I don't swim. Like I am very sensitive. So in Ireland, the sea is even colder, obviously, and there's a whole movement of cold water therapy and everyone. And I just know for myself that is not for me, like thrashing around in the wild, freezing cold Irish Sea. When I was more at the beginning of my journey, I was like, wanted to ignore every symptom, ignore everything. And I put myself in the Irish Sea, and I was doing swimming lessons, and I was just like pushing and just like, I was like, you know, wrecking myself. I was not feeling good. I wasn't enjoying it, but I was like, no, these symptoms aren't real. You know, it's just in your head. It's just your nervous system. And it's beautiful to see now, like, you know, 2-3 years later, here I am getting in the cold sea, and I just went in very slowly, and I'm like, I don't know, it's very cold, you know, and then I just went in, and it kept feeling good. And what I always check for actually is fun factor. I say, like, is this really fun? Like, I love that. What's this bringing? I'm here with a friend who I haven't seen, one of my best friends. I haven't seen him in like 3 years. And he's like, come in, it's not that cold, let's take my hand. And we're just like playing, and I'm like, okay, this is playtime. Just like check in, like, are you enjoying? Yes, I'm enjoying this is good. Okay, are you finished now? Yeah, I'm finished now. Go out, warm up, get on the bike, cycle home. And then as well, I love what you said, and I think you said this when we chatted before, that tiredness can be scary. And then I start getting really tired coming back, and I'm like, and I notice that fear. Oh my God, tired? Oh my God, like, what does that mean? Right. And like, well, you're cold and tired now. And because for me, even as a child, when I used to get those fevers, my symptoms were cold and tired. So honestly, cold and tired are my mega fear things. Because when I got these fevers, chronic fevers all the time, cold and tired, it was sickness. It was danger. It was real fevers, like. And so, and then I was like, right, I could see that fear all coming in. Oh, you're cold and tired. But it was so interesting, right? Because I was chatting with my friend. He was cold and he was tired. And I was just noticing he was having the same experience as me, but he wasn't scared of it, and it wasn't scary to him. I was just noticing, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. This is cool. And I'm like, well, I need to make sure I'm taking good care of myself, make sure I get home and, you know, in a while and soon, and have a little lie down, check in with my body, you can have a hot shower. And it's just what you were sharing about is like, I know when that fear story comes up, I know I have so many resources and ways to take care of myself. And I know that it's not a syndrome or an illness, that it is a fear response in my brain and my nervous system, and that I have my own personal set of preferences and ways that I take care of me and my nervous system. So that's the go-to.
I love how you made your own experience matter. Like, my experience of this water is that it's too cold right now, and I'm only going to put my feet in, or up to my knees, right? You allowed yourself to decide how you wanted that experience to go, rather than just shoving yourself through it and having it be awful. a therapist of mine used to say, be mindful of the terror barrier, right? That place that we try to cram ourselves through, but instead we just ricochet back off of. And I always love that image because so many of us for a long time, we got away with pushing through. We got away with it, right? And then all of a sudden you can't. And it's like, but what's going wrong here, right? And just the one little tweak of how can I make this more fun? Oh, okay. Well, that just immediately dissolves this need to push through that wall, right? And invites us into something completely different. And then you have this kind of fun comparison happening where you're like, okay, my friend is alive, right? He's in the water. He's enjoying himself. He's not dead yet. Okay, there's something happening here. This might in fact be safe. All the ways you can use the evidence around you too to help with this internal experience. That was a really cool story. It reminds me of mountain biking because my husband and I have only been doing it a handful of years, and it was something I had never done before. Friends introduced us to it, and I know where my thresholds are now, but in the beginning it was like, no, I can do 2 more miles, and I get myself into this pushing where now I know at the 10-mile mark, I'm going to be tired and I'm going to get sloppy, and then injuries could happen. So I need to make sure that I'm doing a route, that's about 10 miles, that's what my body is built for right now, maybe more later, but knowing, right, where those limits are. And we're such a culture of like, no limits, right? Like never be limited. And that's just not real. That's just not human. That's not the human experience at all. We can continue to grow our limits and expand what we're capable of, but like getting there through forcing and self-pressure and criticism and not enoughness and all the darn ways that we do that is just so harmful to the whole mind body system. So, resonating completely.
Yeah. Oh my God, me too. Like, I used to push myself, just like you said, like back, like I would have been jumping off a cliff into the water, like just being real tough. And then when I couldn't do things, like just say if I was mountain biking and we did a certain amount, and then I was reaching my limit because I was so disconnected to my limit, and like I was so not taking care of myself, I would use my kind of like illness or my symptoms. It was like the only way I could communicate. I can't go further because I have fibromyalgia, or I can't do this, or and I've over the past years that I've been recovering, I have noticed so many ways in life that I would just see a moment and I'd be like, even if someone was annoyed with me for doing something, I'd be like, defensive, like, oh, well, I'm sick and I can't, like, don't be mad at me. I'm sick. I'm like, and it's been so fascinating. I've actually never spoken about this before, like, but I have been noticing over the years so many times where I would communicate. I had a client recently, we just started, and she said over Christmas, she had all these symptoms, like, all these things were rising. And she's like, but it was the first time I never spoke about it. And not in a harsh, like silencing myself way, in a way that she was like, I don't want to relate to people through my pain and symptoms anymore. She was just like, I just want to connect on it from a different place. And I still notice ways that I felt so silenced, right? It was more from a place of like, I didn't feel like I could just speak up for my basic needs. I didn't feel like I had a voice or a capacity to take care of myself. So it would always get to a point where I'm like nearing death with pain and symptoms and things. I'm like, I can't do this because I'm in this kind of almost desperate space.
Oh, yes. It's like your body was finally advocating for you because your voice wasn't speaking up soon enough, right? Exactly. I know for me, acknowledging a limit would have meant like, I'm weak, or I'm, a scaredy cat, right? Like if you don't want to get in the water, you're being a chicken, right? I can remember as a kid getting into my grandma's pool, right? And if I didn't do what my cousins did, I was a chicken, right? Like maybe that was just my limit. And if we can recognize the limit, there's no additional story that goes with that. It's not, this is my limit and it's because I'm a blah, 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 or this is my limit and that means I'm weak. It's like, this is my limit, period. This is my acknowledgement of where it stops for me, or where it ends for me, or where I begin from here. And to use our voice and recognize that without it meaning anything else. It's just a factual statement. Our bodies don't have to finally draw the line for us, is what I heard in that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then
That's
finding my own, like a new voice. So
yes.
where I'm speaking about my limit, or I'm speaking up for myself, and I'm communicating from a place that it's only coming from there. I don't know if this makes sense, but it's like only coming from there.
Yes.
It's not coming from a place of like defensiveness, or, you know,
Yes.
it's just coming from like, this is me and I have this limit and I'm not available for that. And like, it can be really uncomfortable, like but it be at the same time as it being uncomfortable, it feels really good. And it's soothing. I've found, even though it might be like a bit rattling in a way, because it's new territory, but for me, it feels really exciting, actually. So yeah, that's all the learning journey. This is the learning
journey. It reminds me, I'm sure you're familiar with Deb Dana. She translates and talks a lot about polyvagal theory. I think she uses a lot of everyday great language for us to understand, you know, a complex theory. And she always says, you know, where is that answer coming from? Is it coming from the vagal? Is it coming from the dorsal? Is it coming from the sympathetic, you know, or is it coming from the safe place, or the activated state, or the shut down place? And I think we end up being, through the practices, through experience, right? And tell me if I'm misunderstanding you, Aoife, but you're now able to, and you're recognizing you're able to, over time, choose the answer from that safe and social place. You no longer need to go into a deep of a threat response, a deep of a protective response to get your needs met or to take care of yourself, right? And I think that, yes, our nervous systems are flexible. We need those zones of protection sometimes, right? We do need to be alerted, but do we need to be alerted at that extreme level to go to the bathroom? To say, I'm taking the day off of work because I'm tired, to say, no, thank you, I don't want to go to the party tonight, right? Like, no, we can choose that from awareness, a safe and social state, and not have to get so triggered and activated, right? And then I think that's a byproduct of long-term work. I wouldn't say that that's what somebody's going to do from the beginning, but I think you and I have been in our journeys long enough to kind of start to feel those nuances of, where am I making this decision from? I no longer have to get so charged up, right, to honor my needs. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Am I okay? I'm on the wavelength.
Yeah, you're on
I love that. I love what you shared. I think that's brilliant. What a sign of true growth and potential in that work, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I hadn't heard what you shared before, like, where is that voice coming from? But that made total sense to me. And then also just like having total compassion. I'm actually going to use that, because that just made does that
go
like,
for it?
So much sense. Because I'm now thinking, I'm like, oh yeah. And then sometimes you do, like, you can really see you have like a response from that, like from this, like, you're a bit stressed, or you don't know what to do, and like that's okay too, you know, like just that.
Yes.
The softening and the compassion, and then really celebrating, oh, I made a really strong, like, or a decision from a new place, and like, that's so cool. That's a sign of growth. And that's so powerful. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, because I don't want to teach my daughter to not get angry, right? And go into sympathetic arousal. Like, I want her to get angry when, right, those situations call for it. But I also want her to know how to approach that anger and use it for her good, but also for her to come back to that safe and connected space, and not just stay fixated or locked in anger, which may be destructive to her needs if she's not sure how to channel that and use that effectively, right? So I'm fascinated by that, because there's so many nuances, right? To, where is this coming from? Oh, it's coming from sympathetic arousal. I'm angry. Okay, how do I need to approach that? I mean, I'm not trying to overwhelm anyone, but I think there's a fascination to the nuances. When you go through this for long enough, you start to see and feel those, and it's like, ooh, there's so much more of a world in there than we're aware of, right? It's like a little jungle inside.
I love that.
Oh,
There's so much more of a world in
yeah,
there. There is, because when
there is.
I hear myself speak from new places of like clarity and taking care, or this kind of like new, different kind of confidence, um, it is like, oh, where did that come from? Like,
Yeah.
what
And
was
then it
that
becomes
from?
fascinating, doesn't it? Then it becomes like, oh, okay.
It really
Oh,
does. But the most fascinating thing
fun.
is that what we're talking about, like communicating your needs, like um confidence, like that this is like at the root of so much illness. Like, right, because like
For sure.
that is it, that was the new, like that is the mind body teaching. And when I first started to hear people talk about these personality traits and habits, and I was like, what, that's me. And then they connected that to illness. It meant for me that an entire world died. Like I was so busy trying to fix all of my problems, my mental health with certain things, supplements, this, that, and the other, my chronic pain, my relationship problems that I had. I was so busy, it was like, there was like, I was saying I had 99 problems and 99 solutions for each of those problems, and none of them worked.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah. So then once I had this information and made that connection, then I had one problem really and one solution. And within that, I can tailor it and learn about it and just like learn how it applies to me and how I can use it myself and develop my own preferential resources or whatever. But it was always just, I have one problem, one solution, and that freed up everything.
I couldn't love that anymore because I think we all do the same thing, right? We come at it with preoccupation and obsession because there's such a drive and need to fix it, so that we don't feel any of the vulnerabilities and insecurities that this all brings up in the first place, right? And what do you mean I have to relearn a new way to live my life and approach my life? But when you do get the grasp and the felt sense that there really is one solution that can truly impact a lot of things, it's just relieving. And as I kept saying to myself, I need this to be simple. And I didn't know that yet. I didn't know how to get there yet, but I just could feel like I need this to be simple. And I think that's what beautiful coaches do, like you, right? We really are in a position to simplify and make this knowledge accessible and practical, and so that our clients can integrate it and really use it in their lives, because there's a lot of information out there coming from a lot of different voices, and just that in and of itself can be overwhelming. So I think that's the importance, of connecting one-on-one so that you're getting a simplified way to truly integrate this work into your life. We're not meant to drink this from a fire hose, right? But yeah, it can be simple. It really can.
I've never heard that expression
Oh,
before, but
really?
it really makes
It's not
sense.
mine. But when you think about it, that's what
it,
we do to ourselves. Yeah.
it's true. It really does. Oh my God, I love it. So much greatness and so much wisdom. I love the like, where is this voice coming from? That's really powerful. I'm definitely going to take that with me. And yeah, just also that compassion and kindness, like it really is all about continually deactivating the fear response and bringing that awareness into what you're still scared of. Like I can see I am still scared of
Absolutely.
being cold and tired. It's like
Oh,
like on my body, just I'm
yes.
like, I'm cold and tired. And it was only today that I looked at I was like, and my friend didn't sleep. He was like, how did you sleep? I was like, nah, not that well. Like I fell asleep at 1. And he was like, yeah, I was up pretty late just watching stuff and I was like, he just doesn't care. He just doesn't get, that's the
Right?
only difference
Yeah.
here between our experiences here.
So
I was
funny.
like, okay, cool. So I can keep going, keeps nurturing myself on that one, as knowing that reminding my brain that I'm safe and that I have, all the tools, and that's the learning journey, right? You don't arrive.
It is.
You
There's
don't
no
arrive at a
end
point.
point, right? And I find that relieving now. I used to find that frustrating. Like, what do you mean there's not going to be this resolution and this end point I'm going to get to? That's why I'm doing all this damn work in the first place, right? But once you make that shift, you're like, oh, thank God. Because what it actually does is it takes the expectation and the perfectionism off of you. That's why you feel like there needs to be an end point in the first place. So you can be good enough, so you can be whole, so you can be complete. All false information, right? And when I felt like, oh, this is a continuation, always, I could take that pressure off of like anytime fatigue came up, because guess what? Fatigue is pretty darn normal in certain contexts, right? And sometimes there's fatigue that's, requiring me to rest, but sometimes there's fatigue that's coming up as a danger signal and I need to work around that. So, you learn to discern, but ultimately this idea that I should not be afraid of fatigue, I mean, that was traumatic for me. This is going to probably be a lifelong thing I work with. And the more accepting and allowing I am of that, the easier of a time I have approaching times of fatigue. I was going to ask you, are there any places you're still afraid of? You already answered that question. And then I would have followed up with absolutely fatigue. Absolutely. And I'm okay with that. There'll be days where I get upset for sure, because maybe I do have to miss out on something that I really love. And at the same time, I feel like, and you probably can too, you just honor that grief. You honor that sadness, right? That's what happens in that moment. So there's just no way we can be perfect, unaffected beings. And isn't that awesome?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I was sharing with a client, she said the most beautiful thing that she said, her little boy came to her and said, I love you, mommy. And she realized that he felt safer with her, and that he was sharing himself with her in this way. And like, I was like, oh my God, it's just so sweet. And this is what I was saying to her. I was like, isn't it great to think that you have a lifelong journey of growing in that? Like, rather than like, when am I gonna not be affected by life, or when am I gonna be this like non-human that's like just doesn't, you know what I mean? And like just really celebrating the richness that like learning how to be kinder and safer with ourselves, and the ripple effect has on the people around us. Like, it's really celebrating that, like seeing, like I see it in my parents, probably them softening so much, and us having very loving communications. I'm like, whenever that happens, I'm like, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about.
I was a coach before all this. I think I told you in our first conversation. So I had some coaching presence, but after collapsing and moving through a lot of this work, I am a different coach. I believe I'm a more effective coach, having that whole perspective shift. And I always root myself into like, my goal as a coach is to really give my client the skills, tools, and resources to have self-trust. If they have self-trust, they have everything. If they can build this inner resource of knowing what to do, choosing how to do it, when their limit is there, how to communicate that, when fatigue is there, how to be kind to that, right? Like, that's self-trust. You have that, you have everything. And unfortunately, I broke that so many times with myself growing up, as we all do. We just kind of get trained and groomed that way, right? But when we learn we can trust our bodies, when we learn we can trust ourselves, and then we build it so strong that we can rely on it and lean into it, it's like, what else could you hope for, yeah.
So good. Oh my God, I could talk to you forever, Jenny.
Same.
Yeah.
It's so easy and fun.
Yeah. And I wanted to say happy birthday again to you.
Thank you.
So I love birthdays. And yeah, I hope that you have a magical massage and pamper day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to do all of that.
Yeah, nice. I did that last night actually. So
Yes.
and yeah, so I'm gonna leave the details actually for your email service, don't you? You have an amazing email that you send out to people with tips, weekly tips, don't you?
Yeah. It's just a nice grounding. It's called Fill Your Cup. So I usually send it every couple of weeks, every other week, more based on inspiration rather than rigidity, right? Because we're following this flow. But it's meant to really, ground women or men, right? Anyone really. It gives you a space. It's a nice message that reconnects you to the truth of life, of yourself, of your situation, and always a practice embedded in that to utilize in your life. And some people are going to like, and some people aren't going to like. Find what works for you. Find what brings relief, right? Follow the advice that goes, like, yes, that. Let it be easy. So yeah, I can share that link with you so that people can just jump right to the link and subscribe that way. That might be easy.
That's
Okay.
perfect. We like easy. We like simple.
We love easy. We love simple. And we love kind.
We do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Aoife, so good to see you. And I wish for a continued smooth transition to your new living space, your new home.
Thank you so much, Jenny.
You're so welcome.
Sending you so much love and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you for hanging with me. And thanks everyone else for joining us.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye, Aoife.